So, have you ever, when you're a kid, had this idea where you're like, I'm going to change the world, like I've thought of the best idea, and then an adult comes in the room and just shatters it because you were kind of a moron about the whole thing, and you obviously weren't going to change the world or do some great big thing?
About 1,000 of those.
Okay, well, I for some reason had just like a core memory pop up today when I was 7, where me and some
Mhm.
of my friends in my neighborhood decided we were going to start a band based on some my ability to play Yankee Doodle on the electric keyboard and like
Sure.
them banging on some bongo drums, and maybe one guy didn't even have an instrument and he definitely wasn't a good singer, but we decided we were going to be a band, but not just any band. We were going to be a rock band. We were going to be a heavy metal band, and we came up with a name for the band, and we made a really crappy logo in like Microsoft Word, like not even Paint, like Word, and then like printed flyers because we were going to have a concert in my backyard and we were going to pass them out to all the neighborhood mailboxes, and I show my mom the flyers, and we had decided we were going to do this heavy metal band, and I thought of this super original nickname, Metallica. And she just goes, "You know that exists, right?" And as a 7-year old, without parents who actually really listened to much Metallica, I didn't remember that that was actually a band. But then I'm like, you know what? That's ringing a bell. And also, I used about a whole stack of your printer paper and a couple cartridges of ink. And so I'm sorry, Mom. Yeah.
And yeah, the true story of Metallica. Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Working on the Dad Pod. As always, I'm Ethan. That is my co-host Alex. Today we're going to be talking about back to school because it is that time of year. We're going to talk about what our favorite memories from school, teachers, what we're looking forward to about this next school year, what we're really excited to leave behind, and yeah. But before we get into it. Reminder, please go to workingonthedadpod.com to find all of our channels. You may watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, but please make sure to like and subscribe, particularly on YouTube. That's the best way to grow the show. Please share it to any dads or any non-dads who you think might enjoy it. Our dads love it. Our moms love it. Our wives still don't listen, and we do try to share, so we practice what we preach. So please make sure to share the show. Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Better than last week,
That's
when
good.
when it felt like the sky was falling. So it's been a normal level of chaos this week. How about
That's
you?
good. A little bit chaotic for those of you watching. My little tagline under my name is "Does not have lice." It is true. I do not have lice. My
Same.
almost 2-year-old does not have lice, and my wife does not have lice. However, on today is Wednesday. We're recording a day early. You'll still watch and listen at your normal time. But on Friday, right before I was about to tuck my almost 5-year-old into bed, she says, "Daddy, my head is itchy." And my wife and I go, "Oh." And she says, "Really itchy." And we go, "Oh." So we take her to the bathroom, turn on the light, and we find not one, not two, but 3 little critters going around, and they are for sure lice. Wasn't a fly, it was definitely 3 lice. We found a couple of eggs, also known as nits. It was really late, so what we ended up doing was just putting my daughter to bed. While I was finishing up bedtime, my wife went and grabbed the NYX shampoo so that we could wash her hair right first thing in the morning. And, she is still lice free. Now that that was Saturday morning, we put the stuff in her hair. Like I mentioned, it's Wednesday. It was really frustrating. And, I want to give my fellow preschool parents the, benefit of the doubt. But So we saw the lice. My daughter fell asleep. My wife was getting the shampoo. I emailed the school and I said, hey, we found lice. We're washing her in the morning. The director of the school's son is in my daughter's class. And I was like, hey, also, I gave him a high five at pickup. I don't know if they hugged, but you should check his head immediately. She did. He was free. But because this was Friday night, they said that they would check all the kids on Monday morning. On Monday morning, I bring my girls to school. I bring them to the deputy director's office to check her head before I, took her into the little kid room, even though I knew that they'd be going to class to check the kids. And she checks her, she's like, she's good. I said, oh, thank goodness, because I had just checked her, 20 minutes before we left. And I said, I feel really terribly, but we didn't go anywhere other than school last week. So I feel bad that she has this. I don't know where she could have gotten it. And the admin goes, well, right after we sent out the notification, after you told us, 2 other parents were like, oh, we also have lice. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they saw the notice and checked their kids, and they didn't just know about lice Thursday, wash the hair, and then send the kids on Friday as if there was no problem. So I hope that this was an honest mistake, but I feel slightly better knowing we didn't bring it into school, but I am a little frustrated about how this all went down. So it has been many days we're still within that week of checking for hair and checking the hair for everything, and just it's frustrating. But of the 4 of us in the house, only 3 of us are still in the clear, so that's the least good. So that's my real downer, creepy crawling story time of the week. How about you?
Fun fact,
Tell me.
That is where the phrase nitpicking comes from.
I actually did know that. I did know that it was called nitpicking. Yeah, I learned that a year ago, the last time we had lice.
Yeah. Fun stuff. Oh, anyway, speaking of nitpicking, my daughter, she can have some strong emotions sometimes, and it can be over the most mundane of things. But recently, my wife she's kind of over the bullshit at bedtime, right?
Samesies.
And so she very much I'm not saying I'm a big softie at bedtime. I still stick to my guns, but my wife, I'm hugging the kids and she's starting on the story and she's just kind of going at it at a pace that you're she's trying to get out of here. That's Sam I am. That's Sam I am. I do not like that, and you're okay, that's a little fast. But part of this, when my kids crawl in their bed, they each get one good night song and they each get to pick. And she started doing a thing where she says verbally out loud, whoever picks a song first gets it sung first. And my son, you can find this on our Twitter feed, I exactly tweeted this out, but my son, just on repeat like a broken record, is going to say ABCs. I can set my watch to it. I could bet money on it. I might lose 5% of the time where he throws in Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star or Baba Black Sheep, same tune, different words. But he's going to say ABCs. My daughter is going to take her sweet time, a minute or so, to come to one of 3 songs. Her lineup isn't that much bigger, but she's going to milk all the time for its worth. And so when my wife says this and my son goes, ABCs, my daughter just breaks down. She starts rioting against the forces of injustice that have befallen her, courtesy of her mother. And she's done this not 2 consecutive nights, because my wife and I trade off bedtime each night, but she did it tonight and she did it on Monday night. And I just told my wife, I was like, listen, I 100% get what you're trying to do. And I have the exact same rule, but I have the rule in my head. Whoever says it first gets it sung first. And I don't say it to them, because then what happens is she had an opportunity and she missed it. and now she can't get it back, and now she's frustrated by it. And she goes, well, the point is I want her to just pick a song, and I'm trying to rush her into picking a song. And I just go, I'm going to count to 5, and if you haven't picked, I'm going to pick for you. And then there's not an opportunity of getting it first. It's only if you don't do it, you're going to lose the thing. And so this is not like some grand revelation of like, you guys should really start figuring out how you can like take stuff away from your kids instead of giving them opportunities. It's more like understand how your kid's brain works a little bit. Because my wife's comeback was like, no, she is stubborn. And I am where she got that from. And I'm like, okay, I feel like you're not connected. You're intentionally not connecting the dots here. But yeah, just sometimes knowing how your kid ticks. Like I get the same results without having her cry and say I hate you and say you're the worst mom ever or whatever she's gonna say. And yeah, just the difference in how you accomplish the same goal. Yeah.
Maybe 2024 is just the year of the dad. Go us for just being better at this. I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably it. That's probably
it. 100%. Don't clip that. Just leave it in.
There we go. Should we talk about going back to school?
Yeah, let's talk about going back to school. So I know that you have been back for a couple days now. But today was the last day of my kids' year-round, I guess, daycare / preschool's summer session. There's 2 days off, tomorrow and Friday. And then Monday is the start of fall session. So we are, quote unquote, going back to school on Monday after a very long 2-day summer vacation. And my younger daughter isn't moving because she's just been in this new classroom since the beginning of summer session just because of her birthday. And then my older daughter is actually moving from the Tigers, which is the considered, it's not called preschool, but it's just kind of like, it's not preschool. You know what? It's actually called preschool. And then she's going into the Elephants, which is junior kindergarten. Now, the reason I say it's called preschool and not pre-K is because there was an option where she could have gone to junior kindergarten or pre-K. What is the difference? Because of my daughter's birthday, which is in November, she cannot start kindergarten next week in Montgomery County, Maryland. She has to wait another year, but she is on the junior kindergarten track, meaning that because this is an accredited year of school that she's going to be having at this daycare / preschool, once she goes into the county's public school, if they feel like she can go right to first grade, she has an accredited year of school under her belt. That said, so essentially our last year of paying out of the caboose for preschool is technically accredited private kindergarten. They just can't technically call it that.
Interesting.
So it's like my wife and I talked about it. We knew that there were two options. We said, well, we're paying for this anyway. So we emailed the director of the school, the one who we did not give lice to. And I said, hey, we heard that there's two tracks. One's accredited, one's not accredited, non-accredited. If we have any say as parents, we would love for her to have the accredited option, assuming she meets all the academic and social milestones you guys have put in place. And they said she definitely has, happy to take that into consideration. And we got the spot. So I'm excited about that. So that is what we are starting on Monday.
Nice. Yeah, we don't have any mechanism. There is no mechanism for skipping kindergarten in the state of Florida. Maybe through a private school, like going into a private elementary school, there might be, but generally not. It's pretty strict on birthday, and then you can get into skipping once they actually get into school, which is funny to me. The reason it's funny is because what we just left was state-sponsored voluntary pre-K with a state mandated curriculum. Now, granted, because it is state sponsored, it's only 3 hours a day that they are in the VPK curriculum. What that also does is not make us pay through the caboose, because we don't have to pay for those 3 hours, because every child in the state of Florida can get that for free in their year 4 or their 4-year-old year before kindergarten. My son's not going into that. My son, it's similar to your school. We have like a week and a half off between the summer and the school year, and it kind of sucks. And like none of the camps are open, and it's blah. But he's just kind of cruising, because the way they do it at our preschool daycare, his camp counselors were his teachers for this upcoming year. So he made the transition back in June to being in an older classroom and all that stuff. So it was not a big deal. And again, he technically is not yet 2.5, will be in about a week. So not super concerned about where he's falling in the educational spectrum. He also, unlike any of our daughters, does not have one of those earlier birthdays that may make you consider stuff. He was born at the end of February, so he's kind of right smack in the middle of his forecasted grade group. But my daughter has started kindergarten and has moved from, and this is what's been a really big transition, of just sort of this small, fairly close-knit daycare where we knew a lot of the parents and familiar faces and all that stuff, to there are 4 kindergarten classes and like 4 first grade classes, and each one of those classes has like 12 or 15 kids in it. And you're just like, okay, it's a lot bigger. There's a lot more going on all the way through 5th grade. And I'll get into, some of the specifics about what's interesting in kindergarten, I think, a little bit later, but that's just sort of like where we're at. And I think, for me, my daughter going through this process of going to kindergarten just sort of reminded me of what it was like in elementary school, right? And some of the memories that I have, like, she has gotten really geeked up about the cafeteria. That's the highlight that she was most looking forward to. That's the thing that she most talks about when she gets home. Like, I've gotten some rudimentary, like, baseline testing that her teacher has done on like mathematics and reading, and she's absolutely crushing it. But she just wants to talk about the corn dog nuggets. And so I'm like,
Who doesn't?
Hey, listen,
honestly,
you got corn dog nuggets and chocolate milk, and honestly, I'm a little jealous, because I had to eat leftovers of the dinner that I told you was really, really delicious last night, but like, it's definitely not corn dog nuggets. So it's been an interesting transition for us, but it's made me think about just like what it was like when I was a kid, where we're reading the menu of different things that she gets. And like, man, they didn't have this when I was at school. And for the first week, the kindergarten teachers especially wanted all their kids to show up 30 minutes early for breakfast. And they all go through the breakfast process. I think I mentioned this previously, but my daughter goes to a Title I school, which is a federal program that basically says there's a lot of people who are of lower income that go to this school. And so extra federal money goes to this school. We wouldn't fall in that category. It's just happened to be where we live near, but there's a lot of things that go into that. And part of that as a Title I school is that every student at the school gets free breakfast and lunch without having to apply for it. They don't qualify it based on income. They just say there's such a need here that carte blanche, every kid gets both of those meals, which I think is really awesome for the kids that need it. But also for us, I'm like, it's just kind of awesome because some of her friends just go and do that. Like, even if it costs money, it's not that expensive. It's like $1.80 per meal. And I'm like, that's probably what I pay for your breakfast, and definitely more than I pay to pack your lunches. So like, yeah, let's do that. And then that's been kind of really awesome. But looking at these menu, I'm like, I remember thinking rectangular pizza was like the highlight of my week. And then everything else, I was just kind of guessing what this was. And you're over here getting like Fruity Pebble pancakes and fruit cups and you're getting brunch for lunch some days, and like menu
Wow.
options and strawberry milk. I was like, yo, we had skim whole or chocolate. You got strawberry? And she's like, yeah, we got strawberry milk. And I'm like, okay, I'm a little jealous. And
Yeah, that's
unfortunately, so
cool.
is little brother, because we walk to school, she and I, to get her to breakfast on time, and he just sits there eating the same old oatmeal as yesterday, going, I want to go. I want to
Yeah.
go. I want to go eat the Fruit
Yeah.
Loops.
Wow. God,
So
kids in 2024 have it so easy.
she got a
You know,
sausage biscuit one day.
what? My goodness.
I'm serious. It's
Yeah.
out there. I'm like, for free? Okay.
So I'm going to be honest and say I actually don't remember my cafeteria experience. I went to public school for kindergarten, first and second grade, and ended up switching to private school in third grade, mainly because back in the early 90s, Los Angeles Unified School District was not the best. So the fact that my parents hadn't had the means and opportunity to send my brother and I to private school, they took that opportunity. But you know, I've got like a very, very vague memory of cafeteria pizza, but just that it happened. I don't remember anything else about it other than this was actually probably pretty traumatizing. But there was this kid in my second grade class who had really bad gas one day, and we had a substitute, and she let us make gas masks, which probably really scarred him for life. That was really mean. And you know what? Charles, I'm not going to say your last name, but Charles, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I participated in that. And this memory was triggered just now. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Charles. I just
I
want
don't
to say
know.
that. Yeah.
Well, I think I have more vivid memories because I took the almost inverse of you, where I went to private school for kindergarten and first grade. And then my
Oh,
parents
okay.
found out that, well, one, the private school I went to was not as robust as the one that I know you went to, that like LeBron James literally sent his kids to. We didn't have that going on. Um, at the private school I went to in Durham, North Carolina. It was perfectly fine, but it was one of those things where there was one kindergarten class and one first grade class, and it was just like not a lot of like resources there. And I
Right.
remember my public high school valedictorian, as well as several fellow members of my public high school, like top 10%, like all my AP classes kind of group, were in my first grade class at this private school and made the
Mm.
transition out of there. But I have vivid memories of elementary school because once I got to second grade, I had to make new friends and start this new experience in a much bigger place like my daughter's going through in kindergarten right now. And I think it's really interesting because my wife had the same thing. She didn't go from private school to public school, but where we are, this school district is the school district that she grew up in, starting in, I believe, second or third grade, because she moved
Mhm.
down here to Florida at that time. And so I find that really interesting that between the three of us, I don't know what your wife's situation was, but we all sort of went through some major transitions there. But I distinctly remember the cafeteria food because through middle school, I wanted to get the cafeteria food because it was just easier than remembering my lunch or having something go bad. And then for some reason in high school, I changed my mind and decided that I wanted just to eat like ham and cheese sandwiches every day. But anyway,
Interesting.
we
I will,
are
I will,
feel
yeah,
like we're getting
I will
way
say,
off the
yeah,
trade track too.
but last thing I will say, because of when my wife did move due to her parents' divorce, it lined up where her older brother got to start ninth grade with everybody, her older sister got to start middle school, sixth grade with everybody, and my wife had to, as the young one, just had to start elementary school in the middle and didn't get the same lineup as her brother and sister. So, yeah, there we
Interesting.
go. Yeah.
Well, there you go. But I think circling back to our kids now,
Yeah, those
I think
kids.
one of the interesting things has been getting ready for this school year. This was something that I
Mhm.
always looked forward to, was like just shopping for new stuff, because like I don't know what I did to my pencils and my notebooks and my backpack, but like I was rough on them. I was rough
Dude,
on everything. And so like hitting up Staples or Walmart or Target or wherever we were back to school shopping that year, that was like paradise to me. I was like, you mean I have a brand new spiral bound notebook that's not going to like poke me 10 times because half of it's sticking out towards California?
There was nothing nicer than a crisp new 3-ring binder with the perfectly aligned clips. I'm talking the big stuff. I'm talking like the 2.5-inch rings where you can get your whole school day, all 8 classes in the same one. I'm talking how nice that was. You muted yourself.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to cough there, but that would be nice, except for when I was like in middle school and high school, I had like every class was like, you need this specific binder for this class, and you need this specific notebook, and you need these supplies. And like we had these things called teams in middle school where you could sort of, like all like you had a science teacher, a social studies teacher, a math teacher, and an English teacher all on the same team. And so you'd rotate your schedule among those 4 and then some electives. But I'm like, did y'all not coordinate? Because like you want a 3-ring binder, you want a 5-ring binder, you want a 7-ring binder, you want a spiral bound notebook, and I cannot mix them using device. Anyway, I could go on some rants about the disorganization, but one of the really cool things about school supplies this year for my daughter, and I hope it will stay in place for my son, not because we need it, but because I think it's a net good thing, is this year our school district, and I couldn't find this a lot, like the free breakfast and lunch, that's obviously a part of Title I. It's a federal program. But locally, our school board decided that this year they were going to just pay for all of the kids' school supplies. Elementary through high school, every public school kid in the district, you don't have to go back to school shopping. There might be some special things like backpacks or the graphing calculators that you would need for like maybe late middle school, high school math. But anything outside of that, or like lab equipment, so again, really specialty stuff like the notebooks, the pencils, the blah, 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 that gets handed to you when you walk in the classroom first day. And I love that. Again, when it's one of those things that you just make everything more accessible for everybody, I think it just makes it a lot easier for everybody to learn. And so taking away some of those barriers of like, hey, did I get breakfast today? Does my mom have money for lunch? Was I able to get the exact 3 different styles of notebooks I needed for my class, right? Like the teacher can take care of it, says, I want X, Y, and Z, and I need 15 of them or 20 of them or whatever my number is. And so I thought that was pretty cool. But my wife was very sad about not getting to do the back to school shopping this year. How do you guys feel about back to school shopping? Do you have to do much of it with the junior kindergarten?
Nah. So we do not have to do it for junior kindergarten. That is not something that we have to do particularly this year. That will obviously be part of next year's agenda. I don't believe that we're getting all of our school supplies covered. I know that as a substitute teacher for the district, I know that the school supplies Chromebooks for everybody. You don't really get to take them home, but a lot of the lessons are done via Chromebook. Everybody gets their own login, and it's a good way to electronically track how everybody's doing. You might be able to take some home. I don't know. As a substitute, I don't regularly see the kids take them home, but we'll see. What I do know is I've been trying to scout some of the schools in the district, as a future parent of students. But so this junior kindergarten, the junior part is you don't have to go school supply shopping. That luckily is included in the billions of dollars they're purging from my account. So
yeah. Do you feel like you had to do anything with your daughter this year to get her emotionally prepared for the change of like, hey, this might be a little more regimented?
So here's what's interesting.
And maybe you're about to have those convos because we just ended today. So
the junior kindergarten teacher we've known her for a while. She has a daughter who overlapped, my younger daughter's class for about 3 months. So we actually got to know her parent to parent, despite the fact that she was a faculty member. So we had that pre-existing relationship. So we're really happy that our older daughter is going to have her. Where this transition is going to be quite different for my daughter is she has been with her current teacher in the Tigers since she was a Lion. So they've had this relationship together for about 2.5 years, where, she ended up moving up with the kids after a brief stint not. And, so this will be really her first experience for longer than maybe just a couple of weeks of having a new teacher. Luckily, it's one she knows. Luckily, there is a lot of commingling, but she will have different classes. So I mentioned that with my daughter's birthday, and this was a couple times in season 1, but she is in what they call the swing class. It's for all the kids who missed the cut. And so they're kind of on the calendar year, the B squad for birth year, the birth year squad. So they are on essentially calendar year versus academic year. But because of the 2 tracks of junior kindergarten and preschool, now they're finally getting split up. And so she's not going to be with all the same kids. There's going to be a lot of the same kids, some new kids, maybe for the ones who were in the academic year, whose parents are just kind of like, I'm afraid of change, so let's just pay for another year, which I'm like, you're effing crazy. But they're doing it. And then there's some other kids who are new enrollees. So it's going to be a new group.
Interesting.
To kind of jump ahead into one thing I'm really excited to leave behind is the bully for the last 2 years is in the pre-K track and not the junior kindergarten
There
track.
You go.
So I no longer have to deal with that. These reports of the same kid pushing her, hitting her in her personal space, in my personal space, when I'm trying to say goodbye to her in the mornings. I don't like talking bad about a little boy, but I'm really happy to not have to interact with you anymore.
Sure. I get that. And I think when my daughter was going into VPK, we had to emotionally prepare her because we got information from her teacher who we knew because they rotate who's on door duty, one door in, one door out. And we knew her, but we also knew that she was like a 20+ year veteran of doing this. Like, she knows what she's doing, and she's not going to, like, I don't want to say take feedback, but it's just sort of like, I don't know. It's like going up to Eric Spoelstra or Greg Popovich or somebody, and going, hey, here's how I think you should really, coach up basketball. It's just like, it's probably going to fall a little bit on deaf ears where they have a system. And so she's happy to talk about individual scenarios, but she was very much like, part of what we do here in the VPK program. Yes, we learn things, but part of what we're working on is the ability to sit quiet and sit still and pay attention and follow rules, because there's more structure here. It's not chaotic, and we'll ease them into it. But for the first few weeks, you're probably going to get a lot of rebelling. And Miss So-and-so, I'm just going to call her Miss So-and-so. Miss So-and-so was the villain of my daughter's story, true to her prediction for the first 3 weeks, as she had, and we had to work with her on, okay, this is going to be different, but you're going to get used to it. Keep following the directions, keep learning, and then the rules won't feel so overwhelming because you'll get them and you'll do them. Just like the rules at home. You have to take time and you have to, learn them. And wouldn't you know it, this year, we go to my son's open house just because of scheduling and which parent had what. My wife goes with my daughter to my son's open house. And she almost tackles Miss So-and-so out of pure glee because she missed her so much all summer. I was dropping them off a couple of weeks at camp, and I was dropping my son off, and she would mandate that I roll down the windows so she could, hey, Miss So-and-so, hey! And so it will change if any of your kids are like having that kind of experience of like, I don't like the rules. I don't like that. And so I was expecting this in kindergarten, much bigger school, not a lot of her preschool friends because a lot of people were coming from all over to go to this preschool. Nobody else lived super locally like we did. She had a couple of friends from like her dance classes and friends from the neighborhood. And she's been eating breakfast with them, but none of her friends actually ended up in her class. And so I was like, this is going to be tough for her.
Yeah.
She got it. Been nothing, man. I have to be like, hey, did you mean to give me a hug before you just marched off? Like, she's just a grown woman now. And like, there's been no transition. And we went to curriculum night tonight where they sort of explain what the curriculum is and what they go through for all the grades. And we went to that tonight and we were talking with her teacher briefly. And we were just like, hey, how's everything going? It's only been a week and a half. And it's like, oh, she's great. She's super helpful. She's super, knowledgeable, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, okay, where's the transition pain? What happened here? Where's the awkwardness? And so that just hasn't come. And I'm glad for it. It's very welcome. But yeah, I was a little surprised.
Yeah. The hard thing for my older daughter is that her best friend changed preschools for this last year, and they actually started this past Monday. So their last day at school together was Friday. Of course, we all went to dinner on Friday, and then we got the lice notification. So texted them specifically, knowing that they would not get checked on Monday at the new school.
Sure.
So actually so like I said, today is Wednesday. On Monday and Tuesday, my daughter made care packages for her friend at her new school.
That's
in a little bag with drawings, and she rallied the other girls in the class. They all had to make a drawing, and we thought that was the most adorable thing in the world on Monday. And then on Tuesday, she's like, I made another care package for a friend. And we said, that's really sweet, but 2, isn't that a little bit of overkill? Like, aren't you coming on a little strong? Like, you don't want her to know you miss her that much, you know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway,
that other kid is going to be so geeked when she gets that, though.
I know, so excited. Much. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Luckily they'll still be doing soccer together, so that'll be a nice. And of course, we'll do play dates. The dad, we're friends with the parents. It's not going to be the end of the world, but it was so sweet to just be like, I hope she's okay at her new school. I made care packages.
Yeah.
What? Oh, you're so sweet.
Yeah. And I will say, like, making the transition has not been without its difficulties, but it hasn't been on my daughter's side, right? Like, some of it is natural growing pains. Like, the biggest thing that is the jump from preschool in this very like contained environment to school is my daughter has just constantly, like, she's left something every day. She forgets something. There is so much more personal responsibility in kindergarten, and it's not crazy. It's still kindergarten, but it's just like everybody doesn't know all the things you have. Everybody doesn't know what all your stuff is. Your teacher is not greeting you at the door, taking you back to the classroom, and then at the end of the day, reversing that process to get you from your parents' hand to where you need to go. And so my daughter left her water bottle 2 days ago. So we had a backup water bottle. And then she left that yesterday without bringing the other one home. And I was just kind of like, we're out of water bottles. We got your brother's backup. But he's going to riot if you take it. Because, so you better bring home your water bottle today. And then she somehow, like, dropped her ID badge. They have an ID badge, a photo ID that they have to wear around their neck. I think it's a security thing every single day. And she brings it home yesterday, was day 1 of her having it. And she got to school today and didn't have it. And I'm like, how did you lose it? How did you, not at school, between school, and somehow it had dropped off the bench where we keep things and was like laying on our carpet. after being attached to a lanyard. I was like, I don't even understand it, but it's just every day
Mm.
of losing something. She did get water bottle number 2 back, but we still don't know where her primary like good stainless steel water bottle is. She's using the promo plastic water bottle from the dentist
I like it.
for now. Yeah.
Killing it. That's great.
Yeah.
That's very funny.
I think, but I think on that note, that's like one of the things that I'm glad to be leaving behind a little bit is like all the stuff where my daughter hasn't napped for a couple of years,
Mhm.
VPK and even pre-K 3, she didn't really nap. But we had to pack nap stuff because she would have to sit there and do quiet time. And she'd fuss at us about having to do it. And it'd always be a source of contention with her teachers because she'd be awake. And it's really hard for a kid to be awake and not make noise. But the teachers are going to be like, be quiet because other kids are sleeping. And they can't like reward her by moving her out of the classroom because they don't have enough resources or they don't want to convince other kids that need to nap that there's some incentive to not napping. And so that's been kind of nice to not having to pack nap stuff. But that's also been paired with we have to pack her stuff, but then we have to pack things she might need for after school because she goes from her school to the Y on a bus and then does after school at the Y and things she needs for after school 3 days a week. They go swimming in the pool. And so I'm like, we got to pack a towel and swimsuit and like all that kind of stuff, which is pretty cool. Except we realized this week that like the days they're going swimming are Monday, Thursday, and Friday. And she has dance class and has to be picked up early on Monday. She has dance class and has to be picked up early on Thursday. And this specific week on Friday, she has nutcracker tryouts for dance. And so she can't swim any of the days. Luckily, she has a birthday party at the local water park on Friday after dance tryouts. So she will get something out of it. But she's not going to get nearly as much swimming. So she's getting some FOMO from there. But I'm just like, glad to be done with like the nap stuff and having someone message me that like, hey, you forgot their sheets or their blanket or whatever. And I'm like, well, crap. I forgot. And I'm sorry. And it's yet another thing that just like all the little bits.
Yeah. I mentioned on an earlier episode that my daughter also has not napped since her year 2. So our school has the quote unquote accelerated track, which is basically your kid's not actually smarter. They are just not napping, and we don't want them to disturb the kids who are napping. So we're going to charge you more to give them extra schooling while the other kids nap. And so we've been doing that. And then I will say with regard to the, transition overall, there are 2 things that are actually, we really have started now that you mention it. So on the way to gymnastics class, we actually pass what would be her kindergarten through 5th grade, I think. So we have her, she started saying, hi, kindergarten, bye, kindergarten on the drive to and from. So she knows where she's going. She also in this summer session, she's been old enough where they go on field trips. So she's really started to have her first experience with the bus. And she now loves the bus. So she knows that she's going to be taking a bus to kindergarten. In fact, actually the other day when she said, am I taking the bus to kindergarten or are you driving me? And I said, I don't know. I guess some days I'll drive you. And she goes, no, I'm taking the bus. And I said, okay, great, whatever. Don't hurt me. But one of the things that is that's interesting is our preschool is actually they've worked out with the school district that they are in fact a bus pickup spot because a lot of the kids who live as close as we do are zoned for that preschool. So in an effort to be more entrepreneurial, make more money for the kids that are actually in kindergarten, they do have before and after care. So, should I get my crud together in the mornings and get my kids there on time better than I have been, what I'm able to do is it still can be one drop off for me for the time being, which is kind of cool. I also just I can also have the opportunity where, without actually having to pay for the morning care, I can do, drop the younger one off and then wait with the older one at the school for the pickup. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that'd be cool.
yeah,
That'd be
yeah.
cool. Like I mentioned a couple times, my daughter and I, she bikes, I walk behind her to school, and that's been super nice. But I do have to drag the bike back. I think I mentioned that on
Mhm.
last week's pod, but do have to drag the bike back. But she has really enjoyed biking to school and enjoys taking the bus. She was pretty hyped about it, but I was just like, listen, like I can't tell you what the bus route's going to be, but like it takes us 2 minutes to drive to your school. So like, I don't know that that's ever like, if it's raining, I'm just going to put you in the car. You're not ready
Right.
for a pickup, but the earliness of it, like we get there, doors open at 7:10 and she can get breakfast. So
Mhm.
we leave the house at 5 till 7 and then I come back and I get my son. And they have aftercare there, but we chose the Y because it's like $10 more per week. And it's not that there's anything wrong with her elementary school. It's just sort of like there's about a 50-50 shot that my wife is going to finish up her work around 4 o'clock and go do a workout at the Y. And then it becomes insanely easy for her to pick her up. Slash, while it's still not a huge difference, my son's daycare is on the same road as the Y versus a turn away
Mhm.
to get to the
Sure.
elementary school. So it is kind of easy to do both the pickups if we ever need to. But
Yeah.
it is nice that, it's nice that I'm not going to miss the having to pay, even with aftercare. It's like we definitely don't pay as much for my daughter to be in kindergarten as we did for her to be in VPK, let alone what we pay for my son.
Yeah, you and I have talked offline a lot about finances and stuff, and I will say, as painful as this final year of two kids in preschool is going to be, just I do feel like it'll just be such a huge weight off my shoulders to cut that in half starting next year, even with the miscellaneous expenses that may accrue.
I mean, even if you cut it by 30-40%, it's going to make a difference. So,
Oh,
you know,
yes, it definitely is going to.
so
Yeah.
All righty.
So I know. No.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
No,
No.
I was just going to ask if there was anything you want to talk about, sort of what's next or, for our kids. I think, my hope for my daughter and eventually my son is just that, they learn a lot and they grow as people and they have, hearing from the principal and the assistant principal and her teachers. And I'm just like, there's a good support system here. I feel pretty good with where things are. But I think for me, it's like the lack of control, right? It was very sort of nerve wracking that, like, when we met the teacher, she just asked us, how's she getting home each day? And I'm like, oh, she's taking the bus to the Y. And they put a tag on her backpack. And I just have to trust that, like, for all the other years of her life, myself, my wife, or one of our moms has picked her up every single day. And like somebody that is in my favorites list and contacts has her. And like if
Mhm.
something goes wrong, I know that. And there's just like a lack of control that, like, I leave her at school and there's a messaging app, but it's definitely not as robust with, pictures and videos and all sorts of different messages. It's like, this is just the need to know stuff like, hey, we sent home a form, you need to fill it out kind of stuff. And then I got to trust that she gets to the Y. And I'll be honest, the Y was not fantastic about communication. They sent like a welcome to aftercare for the year email on Monday. This Monday, they started last Monday.
Sure.
And so I was very much like, I have to trust that, I went on their website and it was like, download the parent handbook for aftercare. And I clicked on it and it gave me a PDF for summer camp. And I was like, well, I did that already. I know what I need to bring for that. And I don't think it's the same thing I need to bring for this. So yeah, that's been kind of nerve-wracking, but it's all worked out. It's all worked
That's
out.
good.
That's really the thing.
So, you can clip this part and show it to me next year when I am in fact freaking out. But what I will say is, as somebody who does substitute in the system and having seen how the school district as a whole pretty much universally handles end of day and dismissal, where there's different buses by color and they do it over the electronic whiteboard and all the kids' names in your class. You broadcast, and then when they say, like, we're doing the blue bus right now, everybody whose name is blue, you can, as a substitute, it's really easy. I just rattle off the names, and the kids then leave. I assume they're going, they know where they're going. But what I will say is, I've seen the system. It seems to work. And I know that as a part-time employee of the school district, that all is well. Again, in a year, when I'm freaking out, you play this for me.
Yeah.
Because, I'm going to be like,
we'll have that. But, it's just a lot of it's just a lot of blind trust. And I think, it's partly, especially in our situation, it's the handoff from one responsible party to another. And I'm at the open house, and they have a table set up for why aftercare, and I try to ask the guy some questions because I'm like, I haven't gotten a lot of communications from the Y here, and he's like, I'm the new sports director that started 3 days ago, and so they just asked me this morning if I could come do the table, and I'm like, so I probably know more than you. Okay, great. Thank you, man. When should we start enrolling them in youth sports?
Let's talk about that
conversation.
Sure.
But yeah.
Sure.
Should we work on the dad bod?
Yeah, mine's fast and quick. I know yours have been a little more insightful for everybody, but I'm still on my post vacation hopeful reversion to the mean. Last week I was 186.6. Today I'm 186.2. I assume I would have lost a full 5 pounds had we recorded on the normal day. We're recording a day early, so it was only 0.4 pounds, but I'm still trending down, trying to get back to where I was before our guys trip and my vacation following that. But I'm doing a nice balance of exercising both my body and my mind with the new video game. So, it's all going fine. So
you should every time you turn it over, do jumping jacks or burpees or something.
I should. Yeah. I am a pick machine. So
you could get jacked.
Yeah, no. I could get jacked. I should do 10 push-ups every time I throw a pick. That would actually roughly be 60 a game. Yeah. So
I don't have something super insightful. Last week I was talking about, the calorie burn and how I was maybe under consuming because my heart rate was getting up during the walk with my daughter. And a couple things happened. One, she wasn't riding her bike at all this summer because partly she wasn't here. And she's gotten more of the hang of it. And so what that's allowed me to do is there's long stretches of sidewalk that I just don't feel the need to keep up with her, where I just go, okay, I can see you and you can stop here or not. And I can trust that you're going to do it. Wait for me if we have to cross the street, obviously, all that stuff. But there's only really one street crossing. The rest is just sidewalk stuff. And so I just kind of slowed down. And then I realized on the way back that I'm again, not crazy, but I could just walk a little slower. I don't have to be in a hurry. Once I sort of got my new routine in place and didn't feel I've got to get back because I got to get my son and I got to get to the gym, realizing if I take 5 extra minutes, I'm fine. And there are other things I can do before I even leave the house to make sure that I don't need those 5 minutes. And so that's actually made a big difference for me in just calorie burn is nice. But at the same time, what I was also noticing when we spoke last week about it was just I'm already sort of pre-fatigued when I get into my weightlifting workout because I've just kind of been going nonstop and my heart rate hasn't settled down. And so I just walked slower.
There you go.
That's the big insight this week. Hey, if you don't walk as fast, your heart rate doesn't go as up. So take that one to the bank.
The math checks out. Yeah, math checks out there. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, cool. Well, as always, I want to thank you all, millions of you, for working on the Dad Pod with us. Lastly, before I truly sign off, I do want to say happy birthday to my younger brother. This coming Saturday, he is going to be 33, which makes me feel like I'm 5 million years old. I can't believe my little bro is going to be 33. I love you. I have a podcast, so I get to talk about you. You're not going to listen, so you're a butt face, and I hate you, but I love you because that's how we talk to each other. Anyway, like and subscribe on YouTube. Please go to workingondadadpod.com. As always, I'm Ethan. This is Alex. I love my brother. He's an only child, and I'm going to sign myself off right now.
Thanks for working on the Dad Pod with us. Any resources that we mentioned during the show will be in the show notes. If you have questions, thoughts, or just want to talk with us, the best place is in the comments on YouTube. We're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Threads at Working on the Dad Pod, and on Twitter at Working on Dad Pod. Following and subscribing is always appreciated. Please rate and review us. That helps get the show to new people. And if you know a dad who would enjoy our show, sharing it with them is a huge help to them and us. Have a great week.